Thanks for joining me today. We're going to do a really short series that's hip opening, and it's designed for people who either want something really fast and you do yoga all the time, or you're not a yogi, you're some other kind of athlete, so runners, hikers, bikers, people who do martial arts all tend to get super tight hip flexors. So this is just a series of stretches you can do really fast to kind of open up the hips a little bit, not too much, because you also want stabilization. But yeah, you're probably gonna need a strap or a block if your hips are tight, or both. And so if you don't have a block, you can use kind of a book or something like that. And if you don't have a strap, you can use a towel or anything that you can reach your foot with. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started in child's pose. So put your, kind of scoot towards the back of your mat. Spread your knees as wide as you can. You can put a block underneath your seat if you need a little bit of lift. But we're gonna stretch our arms out really wide or really far. Forehead comes to the mat. And we breathe deep into our belly. And this is a good, kind of stretches out your low back if that's tight, opens up your hips, and we're just kind of gonna warm ourselves up. Our reach is out, we're not really resting in this posture so much as it is an active pose. And we'll take maybe 5 cycles of breath here, in through your nose and out through your nose. Relax your jaw. Breathe into your belly. Let your shoulders come down your back. One more breath in. Make it a deep one. And now press yourself up. We're going to come to a seated position in Baddha Konasana or butterfly pose. For butterfly pose, so this is one where specifically a lot of men tend to not be able to get their knees open very far, and that is totally fine. You don't need to force them. So what we're doing is put your feet together, big toes touch, and we put our hands, I'm gonna spread those out for a second. Put our hands on your ankles, back is straight, gaze is forward, and you let your hips open. You see, I've got blocks here because if you're, like I literally have seen people like this in yoga classes, it shouldn't hurt. So put these blocks as high as you need to support your knees. You're still getting the benefit. If you're a little bit more flexible in your hips, then you can put your feet together and begin to lean forward. And breathe into it. And we'll hold all of these postures for probably close to 5 breaths to just get the benefit out of them. Again, begins to open up kind of the top of your hips, your glutes. Go ahead and gently come up, remove your blocks if you have them. We're going to come into a low lunge position. So again, for low lunge, you could use blocks if you need them. But we're going to put first our right foot forward. Our right knee is over that foot. Our left leg is back. The goal here is to open up our psoas. So if you need to have your hands down for this and get a little bit of support, you can do that. You can press yourself forward as much as is comfortable. Your back knee can be down or up. Your arms can come up and your gaze can come up. Shoulders down your back. Now we're going to step our left foot into a squat. So basically we're just going to kind of stand up a little bit and sink into a squat. And again, if you need, you can put a block underneath your seat. Back is straight. And your knees or your elbows are pressing your knees open and straightening your back that way. If you don't need the block, you can remove that. just let your elbows press your knees open. Breathe here a couple of times. And we're going to come back, this time with our left foot forward, right knee back for another low lunge. Stretching out the psoas on the right hip. Since we're already here, we're going to work our way out to a runner's lunge. So both hands come down, and this is also going to be called lizard pose. So your knee can come open for lizard, or going to keep it a little bit more straight and take a runner's lunge with a bind, grabbing that back foot, letting it open your shoulder, and get a really deep psoas stretch. Kicking into your hand as much as you're pulling. And again, if you need to modify, this is where the strap comes in. So you just hook your foot. And, you pull it as open as you can. So, goal being to eventually get to where you can grab that foot. Now, turn your hips square and pull the foot in, moving the stretch to your quad. Might as well stretch that too, right? Few breaths here. You can always lengthen these stretches on your own time to get what you need out of them, but we're going to do runner's lunge on the other side. Grabbing that back foot, kicking into your hand and pulling your foot towards you at the same time. So you get a little bit of shoulder opening here too. Pull the foot in. Breathing into it. Can always send breath to any area that's uncomfortable. Go ahead and release your foot. And press yourself up into a standing position, however you want to get there. We're not going to do a full yoga flow. So this time, we're going to take our right ankle up, kind of into our hip crease if you can. If you can't, it can come to your knee. Either's fine. And we're going to open for a figure four. You can sink into this a little bit, and it's almost like a standing pigeon. Back is straight. Today, I'm just going to actually do this because I feel like it opens and stretches my TFL a little more that way. Switch sides. Remembering your breath. Remembering we're always stacked. Go ahead and press yourself into a down dog. Palms are grounded, tailbone is to the sky. We're going to kick up your right foot, bend it, and set it towards the front of your mat. Your shin is parallel to the front of your mat. Your hips are over your body, so we're not leaning over to the side. Pigeon, this is half pigeon, is a pretty big opener. So if you're really tight, just put a block under your right cheek and stay up on your arms. If you're not tight, then you can kind of come up on this and you can fold forward. And the lower, you're coming with this, the more that's going to stretch through that outer hip. Check in with yourself periodically. You shouldn't be all tight. Relax into the pose and find kind of some ease in any discomfort that you're feeling. Bring yourself back up to long arms. Kick that foot back. Take a breath in. Left foot comes forward on your exhale. Pigeon on the left. Really trying to keep that shin parallel. If it has to come in a little bit, that's okay. Just make sure that you're keeping your foot flexed. And that you're not tipping over to the side, that you're staying kind of up in the posture. Sending a breath to your hip. At any time, like none of this should be painful. It might be a pretty intense stretch, but if anything is like pinching or feels sharp, then modify the posture or do something different. For pigeon, you can always do a reclining pigeon. So I'll demonstrate that. So coming up to long arms. You guys can do this or not do this. We're not going to stay in it for a long time. It's more of a modification. Lie on your back. Foot comes to the opposite knee. Feet can come up and you pull the leg towards you as you press out on your knee with your elbow. So arms are wide. And it actually, to me, feels like a slightly different stretch. So I'm going to switch over to the left since we already kind of did pigeon. But if you do this again, you'll have some options here. Now that our hips are a little bit warm, we're going to do frog pose. Frog pose can be, again, a little bit intense, and it can also be a little bit hard on your knee. So I like to fold my mat over, and the goal with our frog pose is that our knees, so your knees come in line with your hips, okay? Straight out from your hips. Your ankle and knee should be in line. So, and you can come down, like I could probably come down a little more. So if frog is too intense, and you don't have to come down either, you can stay on your long arms. But if it's a little bit too much, just open up my mat there. You can also do half frog. And so, we'll do this today so that you have a cue as to when to switch, knowing that frog or half frog is available to you. Checking in just every now and again to make sure. Sometimes when something's a little bit uncomfortable, we tend to find ways out of it. So check in and just make sure you still got your alignment where it's supposed to be. Okay, and then if you're in half frog, we're going to go ahead and switch. So our right knee comes out, or whichever side you were on, because it really doesn't matter. It's going to be equal anyway. And again, nothing here should be painful. It may not feel like the most comfortable thing. You're probably going to sleep this way, but it shouldn't hurt. Go ahead and come on up. Again, you can hold out longer if you need to, but we're going to move on today. We're going to come into, we have two options here, cow face, which for cow face, our knees are stacked one on top of the other, and we'll switch in a moment. A lot of people cannot get into this posture, so you can also do fire log. And for fire log, we're really just kind of stacking our feet and our knees, and again, oftentimes you may be kind of stuck in this posture, so just put a block between your knee and your foot, and that would be your modification. If you're in cow face, you have an option to do an arm bind, so arms come up, right by your ears. One hand comes down, the other comes around, and you grab your hand, not your ponytail. There you go. And you can get a little bit of a shoulder opener as well. If you don't want to do the bind, you can just hold on to your feet or your ankles, keeping your posture tall. So then I had my right knee on top, so we're going to switch. Left knee comes on top, right knee underneath. Same modification is available to you. And let's see, I had my right hand up, so now my left arm goes up for the bind. And just breathing into that. None of these, other than maybe frog and pigeon, should be anything that's really at risk of overstretching you. You don't want to force these openers though. So just, your hips might be tight for a reason, and that's for stabilization. They don't need to be like completely loose, but they shouldn't be so tight it's painful or that you can't sit, crisscross applesauce on the ground. Go ahead and release that. We have one more stretch. We're going to take a block and do a psoas stretch. So this block is going to come under your sacrum, and you're just going to lie down completely flat and just under the sacrum and let your legs hang. If having the block flat is not an intense enough stretch for you, then go ahead and raise the block up a level and then just relax into it. You should feel kind of the front of your hips stretching. It's also kind of giving you that oppositional stretch in the low back. And we'll take probably 5 breaths here. And once we're done, you can either take Shavasana if you'd like to, or you can go on with whatever activity you have planned. Because you're all warm, or you can do this as a cool down after you've already done your running or whatever. Okay, so I'm going to just take the block out from underneath my back into a seated position. I hope that that is helpful to you, that it's something that you can do that's super quick, and that you enjoyed it. Have a great day, everybody.